I'm just sitting here looking, and I'm just thinking for all these young folks right here in front. Sean and Stacy, I'm excluding y'all. Okay? But look here, these young folks right here. Miss Joanne, I will include you, okay? Look here, isn't that great? I mean, I'm glad to see them down front this morning. 2 weeks ago, we began talking about relationships. In the last 2 weeks, we talked about the marital relationship. Today, we're going to be speaking about our family relationships, and we're going to do this today and also next week. So this is part one. Next week, I'll come back to part two. We know today that all kinds of forces are working against our families. There's economic forces. Sometimes, you know, when you fill out your income tax, it's not family friendly sometimes. And so even the IRS and their tax code is against our families. So there's economic forces, there's spiritual forces, there are moral forces, there are social forces that want to destroy the very idea of a family. Years ago in Jerusalem, families were under attack just as they are today. And Nehemiah had some words that he spoke there in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 14. Notice what he says. Now, as I looked over the situation, I called together the nobles and the rest of the people, and I spoke to them. I said these words to them. Do not be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord who is great and glorious. Notice what I want us to pay attention to. Fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. That verse tells me right there, your family is worth fighting for. If you do not fight for your family, no one else will fight for your family. So your family is worth fighting for. Now, today, next week, we're going to be looking at traits of a great family. Today we're going to look at two, and next week we'll look at the other two. The first thing I want to say, I want to go back to years ago, and some of you will know what I'm talking about, some of you may not know what I'm talking about. But how many of you remember that board game called Candyland? Y'all remember it? I remember it well. I assume that many of you have played that game before. Many of you might be like me. You wish that you would never have to play it again. Really, truly, the game doesn't require a lot of intelligence to play. Matter of fact, on the box it says for ages 3 and up. Now, really and truly, it's a game of pure chance. But you might say, now, preacher, you're talking about families. What do families have to do with the game of Candyland? Awesome families play together. In other words, they know how to have fun together. They enjoy life together. And many of our families today are too busy, too tired, and too negative, and too worn out to have fun. Now, we know the Bible teaches the ethic of work. We know the Scripture well. It says if a man does not work, then a man should not eat. We believe that. We know that. So it says everybody that's able-bodied ought to try to work. And in my opinion, that's what's wrong with society today. And a lot of things because our government really pays more folks to stay home than they do to work. Makes it more beneficial to stay home than it does to work. And so we believe that principle of work. But also, just as we believe that principle of work, sometimes we forget that there is another principle in the Bible, and that is the principle of fun. Now, we're going to look at some verses, but before we look at the verses, some of these verses are going to come from the wisest man who ever lived. You remember in the Old Testament, Solomon, God said, Solomon, you can ask for whatever you want, whatever you desire. Solomon thought about it for a while, and he says, God, I'd like to have wisdom. So God gave him great wisdom. And so some of these words we're going to be looking at came from the wisest man who ever lived. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 15. So I commend the enjoyment of life, because nothing is better for man under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany him in his work and all the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. You see, play is important to development. Now, one of the things we must understand, play is essential to preschoolers. In other words, when a preschooler is playing, to them, that is work. How do I know that? Especially when Malin was little. He had to have all these tractors, and he's got a great John Deere collection. Mr. Lawrence Brook and Mr. Dan, when Mr. Lawrence worked at John Deere, gave him all this John Deere stuff when he was little. He still has all that, and has a pretty good little collection. But I remember back, he'd be in the living room just playing along and everything, and then all of a sudden, his combine messed up. And y'all, was the end of the world. He said, Dad, what am I going to do if I don't have any money? My combine messed up. And so he would pitch a fit till you fix that combine. Because that play to him was work. Now, what's happening when they play? They're developing skills in their life. And y'all, I'm going to be honest with you. One of the things I have about educational system right now is a lack of time for recess. Now, I'm going to be up on the boys and girls today because, you know, when I was in school, recess was a favorite time of the day for me. And some of you would probably like to have longer recesses. I believe recess is very important. If I was high up in education, if I was an education director or something in Nashville or Washington, I would push to have recess. Because now, you know, they're pushing academics so much, recess in a lot of schools is just getting pushed out. Recess is very important because that's where they develop a lot of their skills that they use later on in life. It's just important to me as reading a book because they learn a lot of life skills there. How to get along with people, other things like that. So I think that's very important. Now, look at 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17. Notice what is written. Do I have that, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I left it off, I guess. I'll find it here. 1 Corinthians chapter 6.
Oh, 1 Corinthians.
1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth. In other words, it's okay to accumulate wealth, just don't put your trust and hope in it. Notice why? It's so uncertain. Put your hope in God. But then notice, this is what I want you to see. Who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. God created the world. God wants you to enjoy the world that we live in. In other words, there's a lot of folks, you know, say, how you doing today? Well, I don't know if I can just make it through the day, or I can just get to this weekend, then I'll be okay. In other words, what they're saying is, I've got to endure the next few days. That's not what God intended. God wants you to enjoy life. In other words, if you're too busy to enjoy life, you're too busy. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 7. Life is sweet, and it pleases the eyes to see the sun. In other words, people ought to enjoy every single day. There are a lot of folks say, man, I can't wait for this weekend. I'm going to enjoy this weekend. Or I can't wait till I go on vacation because I won't have such a good time. No, you're missing God's purpose. God wants you to enjoy today. He wants you to have fun today. Now, there's a lot of folks that say, well, man, I just can't wait till retirement. I just have 15 more years till I can retire. And, man, I'm just going to have so much fun. I'm going to enjoy life and just get an easy boy chair and do what I want to do. That's not what God intends. God wants you to enjoy life right now. Life is to be enjoyed, not to be just endured. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 9. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love. All the days of this meaningless life that God has given you. Notice, enjoy your life with your wife. Now let me just say this. Dads, your dad, listen to what I'm fixing to say. The greatest gift that you can give your children is to love their mom. All of y'all say me, not just Doug. Because that's true. The greatest gift you can give your children, if you're a husband, is to love your wife. In other words, enjoy life with your wife. You see, when a father shows love for the mother of his children, it creates stability, it creates security in the life of that child. Look at Psalm 127, verse 3. Sons are heritage from the Lord, children are reward from Him. Now, some versions say children are a gift from the Lord. Now, they are a gift. Now, can I be honest with you? Sometimes children are a gift that's given to you. Sometimes you like to exchange that gift. You've been there, haven't you? But they are a gift. Now let's think about it for just a few minutes. Children are a gift. What is a gift? A gift, why do you give somebody a gift? You give that gift to somebody because you want them to enjoy what you give them. God gives us children because we ought to enjoy our children. So enjoy your children. Now, here's the thing. A poster, as kids, what do you like to do with your parents? In other words, what are things that you like to do with your mom and dad? It's kind of surprising. They get to say, I'd like to go to Disneyland with my mom and dad. You know what they said? It's going to shock somebody. It was to play board games. Now, can I be honest with you? I was number 3 of 4 children. Trish was the baby of 5 children. One thing we had in common is that we've never been board game people. You know why? We had to play with older brothers and sisters. You're going to play this game right here. So we had to play games with the ones or not. So we've not really been game people. Now, we played with our children when they were younger. Now, you think about children today. They have video games. They have all these electronic devices that they have. Why didn't they say, well, I want my mom and dad to play video games with me? Video games, most of the time, you have one controller. One person plays at a time or whatever. Or they may play. But what happens is there's not much interaction between mom and dad, or dad and son, or mom and daughter. But those board games, you have to interact. You have to talk. And so you have to speak to that child. But then you know what the second thing they said? First thing was they like board games. That was the number one thing. The second thing may surprise you. Go to a park. Going to a park doesn't cost you a single dime. You just show up. And you think about it. Go to a park. Well, they ask, well, what do you want to do in a park? Just throw frisbees, play catch, have a picnic. Now you think about it. They got all these things, but yet they'd rather go and do something that's free. You know what the third thing was? Go to a beach. Now, think about this. We got board games. We got going to a park. And we got going to a beach. What do all 3 of these have in common? One thing. Time with parents. Parents, kids want you. They don't want all the trinkets you give them. They don't want all the other stuff you give them. When it really boils down to it, they want you. And so the first thing, awesome families are symbolized by the game Candyland. Number 2, awesome families encourage growth. Now, I want us to think for just a few minutes about a watering can. Now, what do you do with the watering can? Well, you use it to water flowers and plants and vegetables. And really, a family is kind of like a garden. You have to grow it. You have to cultivate it. A garden doesn't grow on its own. You have to weed it. You have to water it. You have to care for it. And really, an awesome family encourages each family member to grow. In other words, they create an atmosphere of lifelong learning. I think I told y'all this, but I don't know, right around Christmas time, Megan said, I found this awesome app, and you need to do it, Dad, because you need to stay sharp. I guess she thought maybe I was losing some capacity up here, you know, thing. But anyway, I put it on my cell phone. It's called Elevate. And I try to do that once a day. It's all kinds of little games. Every day it's a different game. But like one's estimation. It might give you start off with 2 figures, like $1.99 and $2.49, and see how fast you can estimate what the sum is. And then they go up to 3 numbers and 4 numbers. And then if you goof up on 1 or 2, you have to start all over again on that particular activity. They have word games, have listening skills. They might say, this is Tara Hughes. She teaches school at Gleason School, and she likes to run. And then have her face. And the next face may be Luke Hughes. And Luke likes basketball. He likes this. And then go down the list. And then you have to match the face with the activities. Now, y'all, to be honest with you, I'm terrible at that. But it keeps my mind sharp. I learn things. Missy, there's one grammar. You know what I'm saying? And this is the wildest thing. I am a poor writer. I mean, I write terrible. I butcher the King's English. But the wildest thing, that's what I'm good at on that thing. Isn't that amazing? BJ admits you're going to have to just study on me on my English skills. But I'm good at that, even though I don't do it well myself. And so, really, that's what awesome families do. You encourage the other family members to grow, become lifelong learners. Look at Luke chapter 2, verse 52. Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and in favor with God and men. Now look at those 4 kinds of growth. First of all, grow in wisdom. What is that? That's mental growth. Grow in stature, that's physical growth. And then notice, you grow in favor with God, that's spiritual growth. And then you grow in favor with man, that's social growth. And so notice, Jesus grew in 4 different areas. Every family member needs to grow in those 4 areas, not just kids, not just the mom, not just the dad, not just the brother and sister, but every single family member. Now, here's the question, and really that's what this boils down to. How are you going to be different a year from today? What's going to be different in your life on March the 15th, 2016? How will you be different? Will you know more about God? Will you know more about life? Will you know more about relationships? Will you be a better person on March the 16th, 2016 than you are right now? Will you be more loving? Will you be more patient? Will you be more understanding? You see, we're to grow. Now, what do we learn from our families? The first one has to do with feelings. In other words, when we gather together as a family, especially a child, how do I handle my emotions? How do I deal with how I feel? You see, many adults have problems today because they did not learn how to handle their feelings when they're a child. Many children, in other words, things don't go their way, what do? They just pout. Have you ever seen adults that pout? You ever seen somebody at work that doesn't get their way? They just go in a corner and they just pout? They can learn how to deal with their feelings when they're a child. Have you ever seen a child, they just get upset and they just start grabbing things and throwing? You ever seen adults do that? They can learn how to deal with their feelings when they're a child. And so in the home situation, we grow. We learn how to deal with our feelings. But also the second skill that you learn in your house when you're young is how to handle conflict. One of the things today I think that has hurt families is our technology and different things like that, and the structure of our house. I had to share a room with 2 brothers, one older and one younger. Can you imagine 3 boys in a room today? It'd probably be World War III. I learned a lot of negotiating skills. When I was a kid, we had 1 television and 3 channels. So you had to cut deals. You watch what you want to today when you come to school, but tomorrow I'm going to watch, it's my turn, I'm going to watch what I want to. Learn how to handle that conflict. You see, today the reason we're in conflict in so many homes and families is because somewhere along the way we never learned how to handle conflict in our younger years. And also, I'm going to say this, if children cannot see mom and dad are going to have conflict. If you've never had a disagreement with your husband and wife, I'm going to tell you something, you're lying this morning. You know I'm telling the truth on that one, don't you? No, I'm not lying on that. There will be conflict. But children need to see mom and dad handle conflict in a civilized way. That's where they learn it from. If mom and dad can't handle conflict with each other, children are going to grow up and they will not know how to handle conflict as an adult. Now, I've said this before. When a person is like a skunk, when a skunk's upset, you're going to know it. Why? They stink up the whole place. They spray and everybody knows that they're upset. But then there's another animal they call a turtle. When a turtle doesn't like something, it just goes back into its shell and isolates itself and pulls back out of fear of conflict. And you know what happens? I said this before in a sermon not long ago. What happens in families sometimes, skunks marry turtles. In other words, you're going to have somebody that's just like a skunk. They're going to let everybody know, the husband's going to let everybody know the man, and here's that wife, she's going to stick her head in just like a turtle. They usually don't marry each other. But you see, children in a family, that's where they learn how to settle conflict. Third thing is how to handle loss. Kids need to know how to grieve a loss, because why? Now everybody's going to win every time they play. Now today, one of the bad philosophies is everybody's got to get a trophy. If you participate, you get a trophy. The same trophy as every other kid. It's almost like there's no winners and there's no losers. Everybody ought to be on equal footing. But the bottom line is, that's where children learn how to deal with loss is early life in families. Because if they don't learn how to deal with loss in childhood, they cannot handle loss in adulthood. Why? Because in the real world, you're not going to always be number one. Sometimes you're going to do your best and you're going to be number 10. And you've done your best. And you see, if they haven't learned that they're going to fail sometimes and that failure will not kill them, that failure will not destroy them, what's going to happen is they move into adulthood, and when they don't get what they want, a loss almost destroys their life. So they have to learn how to deal with loss. Look at Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. For though a righteous man falls 7 times, what happens? He rises again. But the wicked are brought down by calamity. Notice it says good people get back up even if they fall down 7 different times. That's the difference between success and failure. Now this is what happens today. You remember learning how to ride a bike? I do. That's the reason I got some of these scars on my head, because I had a well house, block building, and I didn't make a turn and stuff like that. And I was ready to never get back on a bike again. But you know what happens when that kid learns to ride that bike? He's going to fall over. He's going to have wrecks. He's going to do all these things. What do you do as a parent? You're going to get back on that bike. You tell them accidents happen in life. You're going to get back on there and you're going to ride that bike. You encourage them to get back on. What happens when a kid gets up there, the first time he gets a bat in his hand, he can't hit the ball, but what happens? You encourage them to stay with it till they hit the ball. You stay with them. You don't give up. I remember back, I was at Gleason yesterday. Trish has worked in Gleason at this little ball tournament, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And they brought back a memory of down in Treasure. Megan was in the 5th grade, and they were down by 1 point, and they called a timeout, and they decided to let her take the shot. Well, she took the shot, bounced off the rim, and she came out and did, woo! I said, Megan, did you do the best you did? Yes, I did, Dad. Well, you missed the shot. Sometimes your best is not good enough. And maybe if you cannot learn how to deal with your emotions after missing a shot like that, you're going to have trouble a lot, because you're not going to win every time. You see, we've got to teach them how to lose. You see, many successful adults have experienced many losses in life, but they refuse to give up. Also, the 4th thing we learn from our families is values. In other words, what values matter the most in life? You see, the world teaches your children values, but those values the world teaches is not good. All around us, the world is teaching our children values that we don't agree with. What does the world teach your child? Looks is the only thing that matters. Image is everything. It doesn't matter how your character is. All that matters is how do you look. The world teaches that the more money you have, the more important you are in life. The world teaches that everything is about sex. The world teaches that the more you can get people to praise you, the more valuable you are as a person. But it's important to teach our children the basic 3 temptations of life. Now, here's the only good thing you can say about Satan. The only good thing you can say about Satan. He is entirely predictable. You don't have to wonder what he's going to do. You know what he's going to do. He's predictable because he doesn't have any new temptations. But in fact, the Bible says any temptation he throws at you can be boiled down into three areas. Notice the Bible calls them the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. Now, what do those have to deal with? Well, first of all, it deals with how I feel, what I do, and what I get in life. And basically it boils down to this. Those 3 temptations really deal with 3 things. Sex, salary, and status. In other words, every single advertising appeals to those three temptations. If you use this product, you will be sensual. In other words, you're going to feel good. You'll have all kinds of pleasure inside of you if you'll just use this product. Or if you buy this product, you're going to be envied. Folks are going to look and say, man, look, they got that new Apple Watch. In other words, or if you use this product, you will feel significant. It will make you feel important. So you see, those values is what Satan tries to get in our children's life. And so we need to teach them the values that matter. Also, we learn from our family good habits. Habits determine character. You know why a lot of teenagers don't want to go to church? Have you ever wondered that? You don't have to wonder anymore. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you about 70% of the cases that, you know, not everybody falls in this category. The reason a lot of teenagers don't want to go to church is because there's a lot of folks that say church is important. But then they look up and mom and dad goes to church when it's convenient. That's why teenagers don't feel church is important. You say it's important, but when you only hear a third of the time or half of the time, and when you feel like it, children are smarter than you think they are. They realize, hey, mom and dad says church is important. It's really not to them. And you see, habits determine our character. Now, how do we help our families grow? I want to say a few things, and then we're almost through. I got 4 quick things, and we'll almost be through. First of all, we help our families grow through an example. Look at John chapter 13, verses 14 and 15. This is Jesus speaking. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. In other words, we learn through example. Your kids, can I be honest with you, when they mess up, they want to hear a sermon. They want to see a sermon. They want to see you live out what you've said that you believe in your life. They want to see it in your life. They want you to set an example for them to follow. How else do they learn? Not only through example, but through conversation. In other words, parents need to have real conversations with their kids about real issues in life. We need to talk to our kids about what their schedule was, about what they want to eat, about homework, but seldom do we spend time with our children talking about things that really matter in life. Now, I've said this before. I grew up in a cotton patch, and a lot of times about certain times, Dad would say, whoa, stop tractors. And he'd just at the end of a cotton row, and we'd sit down there about 15 minutes, and that's where I learned most of my values in life, out at the end of a cotton row. In other words, that's when he taught me about things that really matter. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 7. Notice, repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up. In other words, talk about things that really matter in life. In other words, there's teachable moments in the life of your family. Use those teachable moments to teach them really what's important. Number 3, we help our families grow through example, through conversations, and then thirdly, and this is a negative one, not through criticizing. We think sometimes that being critical of someone will help them grow. Can I just tell you something? Nagging doesn't work. Criticizing and complaining doesn't work. Why? Because when you are criticizing someone, you're focusing on what you don't want rather than what you do want. Now let me give you an example of this. Let's just say baseball season fixed to break up. Let's just say I was a pitching coach. And my team goes out to a very important game. And the pitcher, he's not doing real well on the mound. So I go out there and I look at him and say, now, whatever you do, don't throw a curveball. Now, what am I planted in his mind? I planted in his mind a picture of a curveball. I didn't give him a picture of the right thing to do. I gave him the picture of the wrong thing to do, and I told him to focus on the wrong thing. And that's going to pretty much guarantee that he's not going to do the right thing. Now, it doesn't work in preaching either. I can can get up here week after week, and there's a lot of church members that really want you to do this as a pastor. They'll get up there and they say, okay, I want the preacher to get up there and talk about all my sins I committed all this week. In other words,